Hey guys, how's it going? It's once again Jesse, the Couch Movie Critic, and we are in the kitchen again. And this is, as you know, where the magic happens. Normally, this is the unboxing area, and as you can see, I'm out here with my two friends, Dante and Dante, once again as the alebrije or spirit animal from Coco. One of the things that I've heard a lot of people talk about is how fantastic it is that they are recognizing the Mexican culture and Day of the Dead, and I am absolutely all for it. I love it. I've been a fan. I'm not Mexican in descent, but I am a fan of all cultures, all histories. But Day of the Dead holds a near and dear place in my heart because as a Catholic, we celebrated All Saints Day and All Souls Day, which are basic foundations of similar religions or practices as Day of the Dead. And one of the things that a lot of people have mentioned is the comparison between Coco and the Book of Life, which I have both films right here. And I want to do a versus video for the first time. This is my opinion. What versus is Coco versus the Book of the Life? Which is the better film? What are the differences? What makes them both unique? And which one, if I could had to pick one to live with, which one would be the one I would go for? So I hope you guys enjoy the video as always. So let's get to it. Here we go, guys. And this is as I mentioned, Coco versus Book of Life, or the Book of Life versus Coco, depending on your opinion, which is your favorite. As you can see by my collection of some of the oddball things running around the house, we are definitely fans of Day of the Dead. We've got Jack Skellington in his Day of the Dead pop form. We also have Sally in her Day of the Dead pop form. And then we have Hector, my Day of the Dead skull, my calavera, which I will mention my 18-year-old Samantha's probably going to hate me for is she is absolutely horrified of Hector. Don't ask me why, but she is. So let's get right down to it. I want to touch on a couple things for those of you that don't know any of the history of Day of the Dead, or Dia De Los Muertos as it's called. It is a Mexican holiday. It's all about gathering friends and family together to pray and remember the friends and family who have passed, and also to support their spiritual journey into the afterlife. It begins on October 31st after Halloween and runs through November 2nd. And basically, in the Catholicism, we have similar belief systems: the All Saints Day and Eve, as well as All Souls Day, which similarly, those are the same days. Most people think Day of the Dead is one day. It's actually an evening into 2 full days, and it basically breaks down to All Saints Eve. You prep la ofrenda, which is the offering. What would be the best way to say it? Offering chalice or throne, so to speak, where you have pictures of those that are remembered and the offerings you're given to them. November 1st is considered the day to honor deceased children. It is El Dia De Los Angelitos, while November 2nd honors the deceased adults, or El Dia De Los Adultos. And again, this is just a way to celebrate the dead, the people that came before you, to thank them for what they did before you, and to remember them in their passing. And similarly, in the belief system, they are, as long as they are remembered, they never truly depart the land of the dead. They're always there. Now, let's go ahead and let's touch some bases on each of the films independently. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started here with The Book of Life. The Book of Life being the first of the two films to have been released. It came out, I want to say, if I remember right, 2000 and, it's got to be here on the back. I believe it was released 2014. So it's about 4 years old now. And The Book of Life was, at the time, nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Animated Film. It did win an Annie Award for Best Character Design in an Animated Film. Now, the first thing about Book of Life that I love about it is that it is a Fox 20th Century film. But what I love about it is that it was actually produced by Guillermo del Toro with the director, excuse me, Jorge R. Gutierrez being not only the director, but co-writer as well as designer. One of the great things I love about Book of Life is the actual design aesthetic. It's in most Latin cultures, you have puppets, marionettes, which tend to be made out of wood. And every character or creature in this film is designed as a marionette, as if the story was being told. The beginning of the story, you do see humans, and they're being told the story about the Book of Life. And what they view as the story is brought to life by these marionettes or these wooden figures. Now, it has an amazing all-star cast of Latino actors. I mean, just an amazing cast, but a mix of Latino and American actors. You've got Diego Luna as Manolo, who's right here in dead center. We've got Zoe Saldana over here as, excuse me, Maria, and we've got Channing Tatum as Joaquin. Separate from them, you've got some amazing Latino actors. You've got Cheech Marin is in the film as one of the mariachis. So is Gabriel Iglesias. Ron Perlman plays Xibalba. And then you also have Christina Applegate playing Mary Beth, who's the female kind of narrator in the modern world. You've got Ice Cube who plays the candlemaker. Kate Del Castillo as La Muerte. Danny Trejo as Skeleton Luis. And so many more amazing actors involved. You know, one of the great things about this story is that not only does it tell you the story of the Book of Life and the Day of the Dead, but it also tells you the importance of family. Sometimes in family, you don't always get to choose what you want to be, and your family wants to dictate something else, but it's a learning from it. Now, that is a very similar story to Coco. At no point do I want anybody to think that Coco was ripping off Book of Life, because in no way were they. It is just a very similar common bond. Sometimes in Latino families, what's expected of you is what you want, and sometimes in any family, really. And this is a story of overcoming that and overcoming love. And it centers around the main character, Manolo, who is destined to be a bullfighter because of his family, but wants to be a musician. The love of his life, which is played by Maria, who is a young lady who is more than a woman should be for the time. She's an amazingly strong, powerful woman. And their friend Joaquin, who's also in love with Maria. And the intertwining love triangle that occurs. Now, in this film takes a lot of aspects from this puppet marionette world, with the idea that Mexico being the center of the world, and then takes you on not only a journey through the living and how things happen there, but through the land of the dead, and also the land of the forgotten. Now, they refer to it as the land of the remembered and the land of the forgotten. Those that are remembered and are celebrated stay in the land of the remembered. Those that are forgotten cease to exist in the land of the forgotten. Now, in this, you not only do you get to see some of the bright, colorful characters and things on the background, but you also get to see some of their deities, such as La Muerte, the physical embodiment of death, and her lover Xibalba, who is the mischievous, kind of the Loki-esque character. And you also see the candlemaker, the person who makes all life and guides and dictates their lives as well, which is a fantastic touch for this film, wherein you don't get that from Coco. Now, musically, to backtrack a minute, we know that artistically, I've already said I love the puppeteering, and it's a great design. They're very unique. It hasn't been seen before in any other film, animated-wise, and I think it's something that should be appreciated because it is a bit of folk art simultaneously being created in modern technology. Now, as far as music, Book of Life has an amazing soundtrack, not just because it is giving you a touch or a feeling of the Mexican culture and Latino music as a whole. It actually takes some amazing grunge era rock hits and converts them into mariachi boleros, which is fantastic. It's, again, taking old world culture, the historical culture of the Mexican culture, and modernizing and fusing it with modern day thematics, modern day music even. Great book film. Definitely something, if you haven't seen it, you should definitely get a chance to watch it, especially now that Coco's out. But we're going to move on, and we're going to talk a little bit now about Coco. Now, Coco, as a lot of us know, this is a Disney Pixar film. These things get branding and blasted every way. That song, Remember Me, won an Academy Award for Best Song for an Animated Film. And you cannot beat, hands down, the Pixar design. By no means am I saying that this design or character designs are any better or worse than Book of Life. But again, they have amazing character design. This time, it's taking it from that kind of Pixar flesh and blood type character and then actually taking them to the land of the dead, where people are viewed as skulls, bones, dust like calaveras. The idea of when you pass, you transform. Now, Coco does have a very similar storyline in the aspect that you have a young man who wants to be a musician. This time around, he is preordained or predestined by his family to be a shoemaker, but because of things that happened with his grandfather, his family has banned music. Versus in Book of Life, he wants to be a musician. His family just wants him to be a bullfighter. So, again, now what's really interesting about Coco that really ties together anybody who's of Latin culture and that is, I want to say, born in the mid-70s to 80s, has that grandmother who always played classic Latin music. You know, boleros is well from the soul, deep, beautiful Spanish songs. And they tend to watch a lot of these black and white Latino films and Latino or Spanish-speaking films, better said, or Spanish-speaking shows as well. And that's really shown in this film. There's a character, Ernesto de la Cruz, who was the greatest mariachi singer of all time. He made films, he made shows, he did everything. And it's awesome because it really, really, for anybody of Latino descent, like I said, born in the 70s and 80s or even earlier too, that has been back to their home countries, their grandmother made you watch these shows, made you listen to these records. And it's a really, really nice touch culturally. And one of the things that Coco does, it doesn't deal in too deeply the aspect of deities or anything along those lines. The closest you get to them in this film is that they have alebrijes. Alebrijes, such as Pepe that you see here in the corner, and as well as my friend Dante, who's hanging out over here. Alebrijes are spirit animals, guides that help the dead get to the other side. That's the most mystical aspect of this film. It doesn't touch on any of the deities that are involved in the Day of Dead. It just touches on remembering your family, the fact that to remember them, to have La Ofrenda and have their picture on the Ofrenda is what keeps them going, giving them their immortality in the land of the dead, which is an amazing, amazing touch. They don't touch too much on that in the Book of Life. They do mention that there is a land of the living, a land of the remembered, and a land of the forgotten. While Coco does go into the pure fact that there is the land of the dead who are still eternally alive as long as you remember them, and there is the land of the forgotten, or there's a time when you become forgotten and you disappear. There's no actual land of the forgotten in this film. Now, a couple things that Coco does very, very differently. Coco has visually, as I mentioned earlier, it's got the Pixar muscle behind it. It takes it from a flesh and blood characters to a world of the dead with bones, and they do it fantastically well. They don't try to whitewash the design of the characters in any aspect. They're actually a little bit more brown and tan than some of the characters in Book of Life, as intriguing as that is with the fact that they're also Mexican. There's no hiding away from the fact that these are actual people who have been deceased and that are now skeletal. So there's no hiding from that, which I think is great, because you do kind of get a little bit of a lesson there for the children as well. And then they also embrace the culture. Everything from the little nuances to the paper mache cutout banners that are seen in the cities during the celebrations, to the calaveritas, to the flowers, to everything is seen in this film. Now, it's definitely seen in Book of Life, but to a much greater extent. It even shows you how some people, by being remembered by the fans, stay eternally alive. So again, it's a really great touch and nostalgia. And the music, touching on the music here, in Coco is an homage. It's an honoring of classic Mexican boleros. It is not, and there are new songs, but in no way are they rehashing or contemporizing. No, they're taking new songs and giving them that classic spin, which again is beautiful in and of itself. It does have a story here of interpersonal betrayal and sometimes what you're looking for being right in front of you, which I think is a great lesson for kids. So again, fantastic film, fantastic cast. Now the cast in Coco is a bit different from the cast of Book of Life. The cast of Book of Life intermingled American and Latino actors. Coco has more of an all-star Latino cast. I mean, I'm talking some of the big names out there. You got Anthony Gonzalez, who's a new up-and-comer young Latino who plays Miguel. You got Gael Garcia Bernal, who plays Hector. Benjamin Bratt, who plays Ernesto de la Cruz. Alana Uwak, who plays Mama Imelda. Gabriel Iglesias is also in this film, as he is in the Book of Life. He plays one of the clerks in the film. Cheech Marin plays a corrections officer. Again, he is also in the Book of Life. Edward James Olmos is in this film as well, too. I mean, it's got an amazing cast, but they do tend to trend a little more to the authentic Latino cast. Nothing wrong having American actors or white actors in the film, but it is definitely more tailored to 100% Latino, and it does keep a lot of that old world cultura that is starting to die as we become second, third generation Latinos here in the U.S. So I really, really love that. I think it was great for my daughter to see that because even though we're not Mexican, the cultures are so similar that you can't help but embrace, recognize, and love what's there. Now down to the nitty-gritty of which is the better of the two films. And I got to be honest with you, it's hard to really say which is the better of the two films because they are two dramatically different films. They're two dramatically different animated styles. And even though they have a similar subplot, the idea of that it's all about family, it's all about remembrance, and then being accepted for who you are, they're definitely two different films. As much as I love Coco, And as much as I love the design theory and everything, it's for me personally, Book of Life is always going to hold the warm spot because I am a second generation Latino, born here in the U.S. And it is something important to me in Book of Life because it not only reflects the Latino heritage, but it also reflects the next generation that's following. And I love that about it. I love the fact that it mixes our music with our parents' music versus creating something wholly new. Now, if I could tell you that I would have to get rid of one, I could not get rid of one over the other. I think they're both amazing films. I love them both just about equally. But Book of Life just barely inches out Coco. Just barely. It's definitely something that you are down to make your own opinion of. Definitely choose which of the two films you are. As a Disney fanatic, my heart will always lie with Coco as well too, but my first choice is going to be the Book of Life. Definitely a great set of films, either which way you cut it. If you haven't seen them, make sure you do, and make sure you enjoy them thoroughly because they are fantastic films. Once again, guys, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and share. And if you enjoy it, let your friends know about it as well too. If you have any comments, please leave them for me in the comments. If you have any ideas for upcoming videos, please feel free to. I'll be doing here shortly Justice League, The Shape of Water, and then shortly after that I'll be doing Lego Flash Film. Once again, guys, you guys have a great night, and thanks for watching.